Hi there, I'm Pastor John from New Life Assembly, and we're going to continue in our daily devotions today with Song of Solomon chapter 5, verses 2 through 9. Today's subject is the kinds of things that get in the way of love and intimacy in the marriage of a couple, between a man and a woman. Things that happen because of selfishness, because of insecurity, there are a host of reasons why they happen, but they break up the relationship, and it's not as smooth as it was on the wedding day. And so let's take a look at Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verses 2 through 9. The woman is speaking in verse 2. She says, "I slept, but my heart was awake. A sound, my beloved, is knocking." And then she quotes her beloved, what he's saying. He says, "Open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is wet with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. I had put off my garment. How could I put it on? I had bathed my feet. How could I soil them? My beloved put his hand to the latch, and my heart was thrilled within me. I arose to open to my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the bolt. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned and gone. My soul failed me when he spoke. I sought him, but found him not. I called him, but he gave no answer. The watchmen found me as they went about the city. They beat me. They bruised me. They took away my veil, those watchmen of the walls. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him, I am sick with love." And then the others, probably the daughters of Jerusalem, speak, and they ask, "What is your beloved more than any other beloved? O most beautiful among women, what is your beloved more than any other beloved, that you thus adjure us?" As we look at this text today, it's very reminiscent of chapter 3, where the woman is once again having a dream. In that case, it was a nightmare because she could not find Solomon. She awoke and he was not there. Of course, they weren't married yet. So that dream was more of a nightmare about the dangers of what their relationship would be like as a married couple. Now this dream, and we know it's a dream because she tells us that she was asleep in verse 2, but her heart was awake. And so the suggestion there, the heart in the Hebrew setting is not what it is today. It's not just the seat of emotions, it's a seat of logic, emotions, and consciousness. And so the suggestion there is that she's sleeping, but yet she's conscious. In other words, she's dreaming. And as she dreams, she has that same nightmare that, while she is asleep, her husband is not with her. Now he's her husband now, so the dream is slightly different. And so what happens, though, is as she is in this dream state, she hears a sound. And it's the sound of her beloved, of Solomon, knocking at the door. Now the door is locked, and he's on the outside, she's on the inside. And so he calls to her, and he asks her, "Open up to me. Open the door that I might come in and be with you." In verse 3, we get from the woman, some of the scholars would say it's a coyness, a playful, but that may not be the case. What may be the case here is that the woman is not feeling like opening up the door. She didn't feel like spending time with him right now. She's all comfortable in her bed, relaxing. She's already bathed her feet. She doesn't want to get them soiled by getting up and open up the door and all of that. She's already, become ready for bed and is very comfortable. And personal comfort can be one of the most dangerous things to a marriage, because if we are too comfortable on our own, we are not willing to make an effort in our relationship. And this could happen outside of marriage, by the way. This could happen to anybody, that you get so comfortable with a person that you neglect to show them courtesy or kindness or even love at times. And this is where I believe this song is going at the moment. You see, they're married, and married life is wonderful and beautiful, but it would be only the romantic who would say that you'll never have any problems. It's the fairy tales that say, they get married and they lived happily ever after. Well, in the Song of Solomon, the marriage is halfway through the book. So the other half of Song of Solomon is very valuable to us because it deals with the problems in marriage, the things that are dangers that you need to keep looking for and working on. You see, marriage, above all other things, is work. It's not this simple, hey, this is easy. Marriage is work. It's more work than you've ever done. It's more work than you'll ever do. But if you do the work, your marriage will pay off. And so I see here the woman, I could take him or leave him at the door there. But the moment that she hears his voice, the moment that she hears him calling to her, she goes, this is worth it, and jumps out of bed. And her passion has been rekindled for this man. The husband does not just go, hey, let me in, please. He doesn't just knock on the door. Now he's fumbling with the latch, with the doorknob. He's trying to get it open. He's doing everything in his power to see his beloved. And that effort by the husband invigorates her passion again for him. And so she jumps out of bed and she runs over to the door to open the door. And we must remember, this is a dream state. So some things aren't going to make sense as we look at more of this. In verse 5, she says, I rose to open to my beloved, and my hands drip with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the bolt. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned and gone. My soul failed me when he spoke. We look at these couple of verses, and here's what happens. The woman realizes, I've been selfish. I need him way more than I don't need him. And so she gets up, she jumps out of bed, she runs over to the door, she has her hand on the latch, she's trying to get it open, and in her franticness, she's fumbling around to the other side of the door and the other side of the latch, and she's trying to get it open. Now, I want to take a break from this just for a moment before we finish up our section and explain to you that many of us will read this passage and we will see here the elements of sexual language. For instance, open to me is a very, very sexually charged way of saying open the door. I would suggest to you that because he leaves, because she doesn't open the door to him, that this is not some kind of coy, playful pursuit of one another, that this is actually a dispute between the husband and wife, and that sex is actually not in the picture. However, open to me, my hands were dripping with myrrh. Myrrh is one of the anointing oils for sexual attraction. So you do have those elements where in the heat of the moment, in this dream at night, the possibility of sex is there. I believe that that's what these images represent and this language represents. The possibility of intimacy with her husband is there. And yet, because of her complacency, because of her apathy toward him at first, the possibility disappears the moment that she opens the door. The moment that she is ready to open to him, he is not ready to open to her. And so this is what I believe happens. The language there is meant to give us that background of, hey, it could be one of those nights for intimacy and for sex, but it's not going to be because of her apathy toward him and his decision to go, well, if she doesn't want me, I'm not going to force myself on her, I'm going to leave. And many scholars don't know why he actually leaves. You see, whenever she opens up the door, he's not there. And I love this. The language is just perfect. My soul fails within me. Whenever you are so close to someone and they're not there, that loss, that emptiness, that aloneness, it surrounds you and envelops your soul. It's such an interesting way of putting it. My soul failed me. It's as if she fainted, as if she was as a dead person without her husband there. And she takes too long to open the door, and he leaves. Now, scholars don't know why he left. It doesn't make any sense that he would be so adamant as to be pulling at the door and trying to open it, and the moment that she begins to open the door, he would leave. But I would suggest to you that this is more of a poetic issue. A married couple has to both be passionate about intimacy and about sexual relations. It's work, as we said earlier. And so for the husband to go, okay, I obviously am not wanted tonight. I'm not going to force the issue, is exactly what I think is going on. It's not that he doesn't want to be intimate with his wife. He was the one who initiated. But she did not seem interested. And rather than be the kind of man who forces himself on her and forces her to do what she doesn't want to do. Remember I talked yesterday about sex being such an intimate thing and how deeply we can wound one another through sex if we're not careful. We must use sex in a proper light in marriage. And I believe that Solomon is the kind of man to not force himself on her. And so he goes, look, you want to be alone? Then that's what I'll give you because I love you. And, Shulamith goes, well, I don't really want to be alone. I just thought I did. And whenever I heard you, I didn't want to be alone. Well, then Solomon has already moved on. And so this is where we get. So once again, just like in chapter 3, the woman then goes out into the streets. Now, I would say this from verse, I believe it's 3. She says that she had taken her garment off. It's most likely she put her garment back on. So it's not like she's running through the streets naked. I believe that she was more proper than that. But she does happen upon the guards, just as she did in her other dream. Now, in her first dream, the guards were not helpful. They were neither negative nor positive. They just didn't know. They didn't tell her anything. And then she found her beloved. But in this dream sequence, she does not find her beloved. In fact, the guards are not just there and neither negative or positive. They're very negative. They beat her and they wound her and they take her veil. Now, some suggest that this means that they raped her. I don't believe that at all. Remember, this is a dream sequence. And what I would tell you is in a dream, there are elements. For instance, we've always seen sexually charged language without any physical intimacy. We've already seen the desire of the woman finally for her husband, and yet he's not there whenever she's ready. And now we see this is what happens whenever you don't connect. Bad things happen. If I can just put it that generally, bad things happen. And so for her, that's played out in being beaten and wounded by these guards. The guards wounding her and beating her is most likely their rough approach to any woman who would be on the streets late at night. In Jerusalem, the only kind of women that would be out late at night that the guards would have to contend with would be prostitutes. So they may, in fact, inadvertently misunderstand her to be a prostitute because she's out at night looking for her beloved. They may not realize who she is in the darkness. And so they react to her as they would any common prostitute, though she is, in all actuality, at the very least a princess and probably a queen. And so it's ironic that they treat her that way, and yet she is no prostitute. She has proven throughout the book that she's a righteous woman, but this is the way that they treat her in that moment. And so the guards are no help. Her husband is missing, as far as she's concerned, and so she cries out to the daughters of Jerusalem, who have become her friends as they have shown her how beautiful she is and how the others have reacted to her and reacted to her relationship with Solomon and thought it just a beautiful thing. And so she cries out to them and she says, I adjure you. Now we've seen the word adjure in the past. It has been to ask the women of Jerusalem to not awaken love before its time. But this time she adjures them. She says, if you find my love, tell him how I feel. Tell him that I'm ready. Please help me find him, is basically her idea and her hope. She can't find him. The guards were no help at all. And they take her back to her place. So she is now left to other forms of communication. And so she calls on the women to help her find Solomon in the night because her love is missing. And the women will react and they will say, well, okay, we're willing to help you, but who is he? Where is he? Describe him to us so that we can find him. This is no different than whenever we take a picture of someone and walk through the streets. Have you seen this person? Have you seen this? If you've lost a pet, have you seen our pet? Looks like this. And so this is what the women do. They say, well, remind us who he is. Remind us what he looks like. Part of their reminding as we get into tomorrow's video will be to remind her of just how much she loves Solomon, of just what a great prize he is. Because it is so easy to become apathetic in your marriage and to go, eventually you get to a point, especially if you're fighting a lot, especially if there's a lot going on there, you go, I could take him or leave him. I could take her or leave her. And the idea here is that the passion of the wedding night, the passion of the beginning of the marriage, has waned. And as it's waned, the woman is apathetic toward her marriage. And then her passion is rekindled whenever she's reminded of him by his voice and by his passion for her. But then he's not there. And so that's kind of the consequence of apathy in marriage. And I gotta tell you, if you are so apathetic all the time in your marriage, it may push your spouse away, and eventually it'll push them away for good. So you need to be careful to work on your marriage, even in times where you don't really feel like working on it. The fact of the matter is that you made a commitment at the altar. It's not just about whether you feel like you're in love with him or her or not. It's about the commitment that you made to be loving no matter what. Love is not as much a romantic idea and as much a feeling in the Bible as it is a commitment that brings forth action despite circumstances. That's what love is. Love is the kind of thing that in a moment of apathy goes, you know what, I'm not really happy with you right now, but I don't want to push you away either, because I do love you. And it reminds one in the moments of apathy of the passion that you once had. And so I hope this helps you in your marriage to not become so apathetic that you're unwilling to work on the marriage, that you come to a place where Shulamith does, where it's so bad that she actually misses her beloved in a moment of possible intimacy. And I hope for you and for your spouse the very best of intimacy as you work together to perfect your relationship, to grow together, and to grow that passion deep in your marriage so that it lasts long. I hope you have a blessed day today.